Hi guys, Han here, and it is not even New Year's Eve yet, but ADOR already setting off fireworks. You guys have seen the title. I already know if you're watching this video, you know what's going on, so I'm going to skip the intros, then the pleasantries. We're going to get into it, okay? I just want to preference that I am going to make another video on this topic, on the same topic, in more detail, with more facts on the main channel, but you guys have been begging me to respond to what's been going on, and I don't want to keep you guys waiting, so just FYI, not everything I say today might be 100% true. I haven't fact checked very much. Just be forewarned, if I get anything wrong, feel free to correct me nicely in the comments, but I'm just giving you my raw reactions to the things that I've seen primarily on Twitter. I'm not gonna lie to you, I haven't read a single article. Also, if you can hear Oggy playing with his toy in the background, I apologize, but it is 11 PM at night. I am tired and I still have to go to work for my final day tomorrow. So just endure it, please. Just imagine there's a cute little black kitty in the corner playing with some toys in your room, like there is one in mine. Anyway, let's start with a statement released by ADOR themselves yesterday at time of recording, and it says the following. Since the final ruling confirming the validity of the exclusive contract, ADOR has been in extensive conversations with Minji, Hanni, Danielle, and their families. Hanni visited Korea with her family and had a lengthy and in-depth conversation with ADOR. During this time, they reflected on the past events and objectively assessed the situation. After a sincere conversation, Hanni has decided to respect the court's ruling and remain with ADOR. Minji is also in conversation with ADOR, and discussions are ongoing to foster mutual understanding. As for Danielle, as a member of NewJeans and an ADOR artist, we have determined that she cannot continue to remain with us, and so we have notified her of the termination of her exclusive contract today. Furthermore, we plan to hold one member of Danielle's family and former CEO Hee-Jin legally accountable for causing the dispute and for her departure from NewJeans and delay in her return. During these discussions, ADOR has learned that the members have been receiving distorted and biased information for a long period of time, which has led to significant misunderstandings about the company and ultimately led to this dispute. Both the company and the artist agree that, to restore the love of fans and the public, it will take time to fully resolve the misunderstanding based on accurate facts. Furthermore, we've agreed to have a future opportunity to address the various controversies that arose during the dispute, and we are currently discussing the timing and method. ADOR will do its best to amicably resolve the matter and ensure that NewJeans return to their fans as soon as possible. Okay, so we're gonna go through, firstly, what is going on with each of the members of 3Jeans, and then we're going to talk about the public reactions, and then finally I'm going to give my personal thoughts on what I think ADOR should do moving forward, because I know some of you have been asking about that. So firstly, Hanni. My oh my. I personally thought that 3Jeans would always move together. Either they would all leave or they would all stay. I never imagined that they would go their separate ways, and I never imagined that Hanni of all people would be the first one to come back. And I feel like that is the shared sentiment of a lot of people. A lot of people are like, Hanni of all people should not be coming back. I feel like a lot of people don't like Minji. A lot of people don't like 3Jeans in general, but I feel like a lot of people don't like Minji because of her attitude, but Hanni and Danielle specifically did things wrong. Hanni being the National Assembly and all of Ignoregate, and Danielle being the statements that were made in the international interviews, and just her general attitude about everything is quite blasé, but we'll get to her. And I understand why people didn't expect Hanni to go back. I also did not expect Hanni to go back. If anything, I said that Hanni was one of the few members who could walk away from all of this and honestly be quite unscathed, because if she went to Australia or Vietnam, she could just go and have another career, and she didn't have to be involved in anything in Korea or K-pop moving forward, and she could quite easily adapt to life overseas. I kind of said the same thing for Danielle as well, and we'll get into. I will say, since this, there have been a few articles that come out, and I've seen a lot of them saying that Danielle's mum basically mistranslated things to Hanni, and I don't like this argument. I don't like the picture that's being painted. I understand what's being done, I understand what the intention is behind it, and I don't fuck with it. And here's why. First things first, this whole thing about Danielle's mum is mistranslating things to her. I have been translating things to you guys. I know you guys also watch a few other channels who've been covering this news, some of which are people who speak Korean, some of which are people who've been relying on translating software and whatever that may have you to understand the situation. There is plenty of information out there and discussion being had in English. And I know that for myself and at least 2 other channels on YouTube who are covering this case, we always share our sources. So I cannot, for me, the whole argument of, oh, well, she doesn't speak Korean well, and so she's had everything translated to her, and she just believed what was translated to her. I'm sorry, that's not good enough. That's frankly, that's not good enough. But you know what? Even as I live in Korea, if I go to immigration and say, well, this is what I read in the translation that you guys provided, they will always still go by the Korean version. You can't be an idol in Korea and not actively working on Korean. And yes, I'm not saying she's going to get to the point where she can read all these news articles in a year, although honestly, if she's got nothing better to do, she really could if she invested the time. But my point is that there is English content available to her, and we have been saying this from the beginning. It was one thing when NewJeans were just in Hee-Jin's echo chamber, but you have been out in the public. You have been sitting at home doing fuck all, and the news is all talking, and like, maybe that's just a testament of my character, but if I was NewJeans, I would be, you best believe I would be reading almost every article that comes out. And yeah, I know for mental health's sake, you can't keep on top of everything, but at the very least, read headlines. Like, there should have been one or two things that make like, that's interesting, I haven't heard of this, or that's different to what I've heard. Let me just at least see what people are saying. Even if I don't believe it, let me just check out what people are saying about me and what people are saying about the situation. And surely at least one of those articles would have opened the door of that curiosity and been like, okay, this is interesting, let me do a deep dive into this. And also, this whole thing of like, oh, she was manipulated, she didn't know. I'm sorry, that doesn't explain all the things that she's done, quite frankly, because we've been saying since day one that all of NewJeans were manipulated by Minji. Why is it now that Hanni is manipulated by Danielle's mum that suddenly that's an excuse for all the things they've done until now, when we've already been holding them accountable? Yes, that's the starting point, but at some point those become actions that you're choosing to do. I'm sorry, nobody was holding your hand. She wasn't wearing an earpiece where they're feeding her lines when she went to the National Assembly, or when she was kikiing behind the central speaker or whatever the guy's called. Like, there's literally pictures of her sitting in the back, posing for pictures, kikiing with the politicians around her and smiling. And then after there's also the live stream like after, where she and I think Danielle are laughing about how she cried on the stand and all this. That's not the result of manipulation. That is a character flaw. That is a choice that you've made. Even if you can say like, I believe this because I've been manipulated, how you go about that, how you go about reacting to that information is still a testament to your character. Like, you could handle that situation with the level of, like, maturity is not even the word that I want. Like, if I was going to speak in front of a nation, no matter how I felt about the person I was speaking about how righteous I am to be standing there, I would not be sitting kikiing about it. At least not in public. Even if behind the scenes you want to kiki with your friend and be like, I showed them. Which, I mean, I'll be showing my boss, my own boss very soon. But like, at time and place, I don't find that as a good enough excuse. And that's not for me to say that I don't think she should be forgiven in the long run of things. If she has, for whatever reason, come across enough information now that she's like, oh shit, I did actually fuck up, I genuinely feel bad, and she is willing to put in the effort to express that through written apologies and whatever, we'll talk about that kind of stuff in a minute. But like, whatever she's willing to do to amend the mistakes that she's made in the past, to a fault, sometimes I'm a big believer of second chances, never thirds. But as of right now, I don't like the narrative that's being painted. It's too soon for that. I need to see actual change. I need to see actual accountability. I need to see actual remorse before I can start to like open my heart to Hanni and be like, okay, maybe she didn't know better or whatever the case may be, because I understand what ADOR's doing. At the end of the day, ADOR is a company and their only goal is profit at the end of the day, right? If Hanni has come back to them, if they said, we are going to accept you under any circumstances, as long as you, not under any circumstances, as long as you show you're remorseful, and they've said publicly now, okay, we've accepted her, it's their job to protect her. It's their job to do as much damage control as possible. But I feel like you're treating me like I'm stupid, you know? Like, and I don't fuck with that. Like, honestly, insulting my intelligence is one of the things that will piss me off very quickly. And I'm just like, I don't like this. I see what's being done. A lot of you see what's being done. But I've also seen so many people who are starting to be like, oh, maybe Hanni wasn't as bad as we thought. And I'm like, based on what? Like, based on what? Anyway, let me not get too upset about this. We got other things to talk about. I will say the other thing I've seen a lot of people say is that maybe ADOR is only taking Hanni back now so that she can spill the beans on Danielle's mom and give them like more evidence. And then once they're finished with all of that, they're going to drop her. I'm sorry to tell you, but that's not going to happen. ADOR's whole stance has always been, if they show enough remorse, we will take them back. And we can see from the Danielle situation, and honestly the ongoing Minji situation as well, that if you don't show that remorse, we're not just going to open our arms to you. So it doesn't make sense for ADOR to take her back now and then become the bad guys by throwing her to the wayside later. If she causes more problems later, that's a different story. And in that case, ADOR would be fully within the right because it shows she wasn't sincere. But I don't think that's the game plan, so to speak. And I just don't think it's necessary at the end of the day. Like, I know people really don't like NewJeans, but we have to separate, like, fantasy from what is actually going on and what we would hope would going on. And I say we as in, like, the general populace, not me individually. I don't really care that much. Anyway, Danielle. So, Danielle. We're going to talk about Danielle before we talk about Minji, because I think Minji is related to Danielle. Anyway, I've been saying since day, and I'm glad a couple of you have pointed out on Twitter, I've been saying since day, this Sean guy, I don't fuck with him. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if it's body lobbying. I hope not. Honestly, I don't think it's that far. Personally, I really don't. But I do think there is, like, nothing done in public is for free at the end of the day. Everything is publicity. And I've said from the jump, this man, for him to be putting his neck this far out for this girl in the midst of all of this, he has to be getting something in return. Now, I haven't verified these facts, but somebody did say to me on Twitter, or I saw on Twitter at least, that Sean has a history. Apparently, he draft dodged. So in Korea, if you're born with a second citizenship, in his case, Korean American, and you're a male, you can choose one of two options. You can renounce your Korean citizenship before the age of 18, at which point you can never get it back again, but you don't have to serve in the military, or you can keep both your citizenships and you can choose to serve in the military. And he chose to renounce his Korean citizenship, as far as Twitter told me. At that time, he did a bunch of charity work, massive donations, like going out and doing things like that, like publicity stunts basically, to win back favor. Because we know how seriously Korea takes military service and things like that, right? I don't know when exactly this happened, but that's what I saw people saying had happened to him. And I think someone also said, now, again, big rock of salt, that he's somehow related to Black Label, the sub-label of YG, which I think is very interesting. I think we've also seen previous relationships between Black Label and Hee-Jin as well. Again, need to double check that. But the plot thickens, basically. And as it turns out as well, we now know about the whole, I didn't put this in my script because this was after, we now know about the whole Omega Watch thing. So, for those of you who aren't up to scratch, basically, the Omega Watch ad that we saw Danielle do in, I believe, December, was originally supposed to be a group promotion, and it was organised by ADOR. When the members left ADOR in November, this is 2024, mind you, that contract obviously fell through because they never got as far as signing it because the girls hadn't left, and they'd only agreed to do the things that were already scheduled, right? So at that point, nothing had been set in stone, apparently. And then, remember there was the staff member who was caught by ADOR trying to set up private deals for NewJeans members? Turns out, according to the grapevine, that was actually, that staff member was setting up a deal for Danielle only. Now, there's been a bit of confusion about, is this a violation of the injunction? So, because the injunction was in March 2025, this is not a violation, like, just the signing of the contract itself is not technically a violation of the injunction because the injunction didn't exist yet. But it is still a violation of the exclusive contract, which we now know was valid through that time, because ADOR did not approve that schedule when Danielle signed that contract. Not only that, she signed the contract as an individual. And I think, for me, this is the most telling and most honestly disgusting part of all of this. She apparently earned about 1 billion won from this contract alone, without involving any of the other NewJeans members. And she also apparently around the same time did a CF shoot in somewhere in Southeast Asia. We don't know what brand that is, but you might remember there was the whole thing with like the Indomie noodles and how Team Bunnies knew about the deal with Indomie noodles when we're trying to do orders and all this kind of stuff through Twitter and Google Forms and all this kind of thing. And people were starting to say like, oh, was this also another thing of Danielle and potentially her mum being involved with Team Bunnies and sharing this information and trying to facilitate things themselves? Because in my opinion, that's a really strong sign of her already not being a team player. And you might remember it was after ADOR announced that they were going to file the injunction in January, NewJeans released a statement and they made it a point of mentioning that we're doing everything together. We are acting as one. And we all said at that time that for you to feel the need to specify that means internally you don't believe that. And now we know why. I'm sure there was already bad blood from that moment onwards. And maybe this was also the point where the parent of the, I think it's I didn't write down, I think it's Hee-Jin's dad, started to be against this whole lawsuit and all this action because they realised that, oh, we're not all playing for the same team. We're not even a team. We are individuals going through a similar journey, but ultimately it's every man for themselves, which is unfortunately very true to a lot of Korean society and Korean nature, competitiveness, all this kind of stuff, right? And we all know not all idols are actually friends. That's very common. But for all intents and purposes, NewJeans had really painted that picture that they were. So for me, this was quite shocking. So in terms of the injunction though, what becomes a problem for Danielle is that although she signed the contract with Omega X prior to the injunction, she continued to do all these appearances with Sean in which she is wearing the Omega X watches. And apparently he also had some I keep saying Omega X, fucking hell, Omega watches. And apparently he also was wearing some of the Omega watches as well, which are basically like product placements, which mind you, I mean, you don't have to disclose a product placement for an appearance, but if she's going there as in an effort to be a brand ambassador, I do feel like there's something very underhanded about that. I'm sure that has to be illegal in some which way, because even then for him, when he uploads it on his Instagram, he should have hashtagged it as like hashtag ad, or in Korean it would be hapjong, which is like collaboration or something like that. So like PR basically. And apparently she's getting paid for all of those instances as well, which is in direct violation of the injunction. And mind you, she only got 1 billion for the Omega Watch contract, but I'm pretty sure the penalty for violating the injunction is also 1 billion per instance. So if they start counting every appearance or every picture, like on social media or on Sean's social media, girl, that's choices. Anyway, Omega watches aside, the other problem with Danielle is that she's admitted now, or it's been discovered, shall we say, that she has signed a contract with another company. Oh my god, shocker. Oh my goodness. Tell me something I don't know. What we don't know is who it's with. So obviously our two options now are Banner and Black Label, but some people put it out on Twitter that Warner Music Korea has her sister signed. And for me, that was honestly, just for vibes alone, that is one of my favorite theories right now, because the fact that she's already gotten in because her sister is already working there. Somebody also mentioned that her sister released a track the same day as like the court ruling or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but I just thought that was interesting as well. And I haven't finished writing the script yet, but someone also mentioned that Warner Music Korea was related to the 50/50 incident as well, which if Warner Music is at the heart of this, that's crazy because they're just single-handedly destroying so many young people's opportunities. And I feel like something has to happen to them if that is actually the case. I do think Banner is also a good option, but I feel like they're already in cahoots with Hee-Jin with like the money laundering thing. Would they be stupid enough to do this as well? Although I think actually some of you mentioned that I made a mistake in my last video that one of the producers of Pit Stop is actually a producer in Banner. I need to double check that, but interesting. I personally don't really push the Black Label theory just because I feel like YG? Like, why would you get yourself messed up in this? But YG has enough problems as is. And we also know that Kakao is somehow related to all this mess as well. I'm just like, how many companies... Anyway, you know what? That's none of my business. Now, what I am curious about with this contract is a number of things. Firstly, did she sign that contract as an individual? Or did multiple members sign and they've just decided to walk away from that contract after losing the case and go back to ADOR? Because that is essentially, for those who haven't read any like news articles or any like seen much news beyond the headlines, people were saying that in the articles it mentions ADOR gave Danielle the option. You could either cancel the other contract and come back to us, or it's online Donkey Kong, basically. And she chose not to cancel the other contract and not to cancel the Omega Watch contract as well. So I wonder if it's a case of one of the members who came back, like the Magnes, told ADOR about this contract and then they confronted her because she's obviously not going to offer that information up herself. So who told ADOR, basically, is my first question. And who else was involved? Did she sign that contract by herself? Was the contract offered to the others and only she signed it? Did they all sign it and then the others cancelled it? What's going on there? I'm very curious to see. I also saw that on Hee-Jin Ho's live stream, he mentioned that both our theories were right. There is both a Korean company who is backing her and a Chinese investor. Me, oh mine. I don't think we're ever gonna know who that investor is, but isn't that Isn't that something? And actually I'm going to talk about this more with Minji, but I'm interested to see, now that ADOR has obviously decided to sue Danielle, which is why we're here talking about this now, I wonder if that investor is going to come and pay this fee. It would be a good way to fast track the situation. I already talked about it in my last video, but in theory, once the fee is paid, she is free to go and do whatever she wants. Somebody did ask me, actually one of my close friends asked me, is there a chance that one of the penalties would be something similar to a non-compete or an injunction? But I said that in my non-legal opinion, I feel like the most they could do is do like an injunction that she can't do any activities until she's paid the penalty. But the risk of that is that if she can't do any activities, how can she earn the money to pay the penalty? And if she's got this investor, they could just pay the full penalty and then she's free to do whatever she wants. I genuinely don't think it makes sense for there to be like some sort of block on her activities like this, which sucks because obviously that means that anyone can kind of just like mess around with the contract, I mean, that is the theory though, right? It's like you can just pay your way out of it. That's always been the case. But it is a bit annoying to see someone get away with it, so to speak. Although she would still be in debt to whoever paid the penalty for her. But time will tell. A lot is happening, right? And also, I kind of wonder as well, at what point did Danielle decide that she wants to go solo? Because obviously, the Omega Watch thing happened immediately after they left ADOR, which is crazy because even if they imagine things had gone the way they wanted, even though we knew it never would. Imagine if they had all successfully left ADOR. There's still going to be the bad blood of like, you didn't wait for us. You didn't plan with us. You already started doing things for yourself. And then also like all these things she's been doing with Sean, like for the last month, it showed that she was moving as an individual. It shows that she doesn't really look like she's taking the other members into consideration or trying to include them. And I just feel like even if NewJeans was still 5, there's already bad blood within them. Now, we do also need to talk about her mum. Wow, we have been saying for the longest time, where are the parents? Who's driving the bus? Turns out the parents were the ones driving the bus, or specifically a parent. And I do wonder now, like, if we go back and look through everything, like the PR account for the parents and all these things, how do we actually know that any of the other parents were involved? Because if Hanni's parents are basically implying that they had no idea what the fuck was going on, which, who am I to tell someone how to parent their children? But anyway, if they're here to imply that, oh, we've just listened to Danielle's mum, we don't really know anything for ourselves, we didn't do any of our own research as grown adults with a child, who's also a grown adult now, to each their own. Danielle's parents are obviously going to be in cahoots with whatever the fuck she's doing. Minji's parents, Hee-Jin's parents, Hyunmin's parents, I was about to speak Yoruba to you guys. Where the hell are they? What are they doing? That doesn't really make sense to me. Of course, we know that for Hee-Jin's dad, he was actively trying to do something. But we also know that the parents, like, was it Hee-Jin's uncle was involved at one point as well. So it's not like we can say that, okay, she did everything by herself. At some point, the other parents were on board. And at some point, the other parents stopped being on board. So I do think there is a little bit still to be explored about what's going on with the parents. But yeah, I find it hard to believe that Danielle's mum masterminded all of this by herself without any contribution from the other parents, even though I do find it completely possible that she could be more involved than other parents were. Somebody made a good point of the fact that, as we mentioned, Danielle's sister is also an independent artist, and apparently her mum is the manager or like very involved with her sister's career, so it's giving stage mum, and the stereotype of stage mums is not particularly great, is it? So I could see this be a thing of, again, of like, at the end of the day, her only daughters are Danielle and her sister. Those are the only people she has any obligation to care about. And if she sees an opportunity for her daughter to do well, if she truly believes that Hee-Jin can do something for Danielle's future, it's not hard to fathom that she would throw the others under the bus in order to take care of her own child, or that she would be willing to play along, especially if she already has that kind of nature. Apparently she's been on a TV show as well, and I feel like this is very like strong extrapolation. Like, it's reaching. This is a reach, but you could also say that that's a craving for the limelight. Like, that's typically the case with stage parents, right? Is that they weren't able to be in the limelight, so they pushed their kids there instead. So time will have to tell. They did say in the statement that they were going to take legal action against, they didn't actually say the mum, but news articles specified that it was the mum, against one member of Danielle's family and Hee-Jin. But in the articles that I saw today, it said that they only filed against Danielle and Hee-Jin. So Again, I only read the headline, so I could be wrong about that. But I do also think that's a little bit strange, because what happened to the energy we had yesterday? Like, I want to see all the court cases. It could also be that Danielle's mum is not in Korea, so they can't serve her with the lawsuit, and therefore they haven't announced it yet. So time will tell. I'm a little bit surprised that they announced the lawsuit against Hee-Jin now. I thought they would wait at least till mid/late January, because I thought they would want to have 1 or 2 verdicts out from like Source Music and all that stuff before they went after Minji. But I mean, give her more to stress over. Why the fuck not? And also just get the ball rolling, because this is still, I guess, unless they just agree to pay whatever ADOR is asking, I do imagine this is going to be another 6 to 8 month process, unfortunately. But we already kind of knew that. I will just say one thing that's worth mentioning is that anything we know as the public, ADOR has already confirmed. You know what I mean? Like, the fact that they're talking about this Omega Watch contract, the fact that they're talking about a contract with another person, the Chinese investor, Danielle's mum's involvement, for any of this to be known by us means they have already double, triple, quadruple checked it, and they know it for fact, and they're just letting us know as much as is necessary and giving us kind of the puzzle pieces to put together by ourselves. I can say from experience during my time working in the industry that there's no such thing as like a surprise press release, except maybe Dispatch. But even with Dispatch, sometimes they do give a heads up, and then it's up to you as a company to decide, am I going to pay them not to run that story, or fuck it, do what you want, we can handle the blowout. But generally, when it's kind of like factual information, when it's like the company has decided to do this is the reason behind it. Or even, you know, when they say like, oh, it's suspected that BTS are going to have a comeback in March. Those aren't speculations. Those are facts that have been told, and they've just been said. They've just been told by the company, this is how much you're allowed to say. And if you say more than this, then we're gonna have a problem. So none of that stuff is like, it's not leaked, basically. Let's put it that way. The penalty for this case is looking to be 43.1 billion won. And I know there was the number of 108 billion won running around the internet yesterday. That was speculation by a legal expert online. It was not a guaranteed number. They can file for damages, they can file for the violation, and they can file for termination. So these are technically 3 different charges that they could levy against Danielle as an individual. For Hee-Jin, they're obviously going to file for the loss in business revenue, like obstruction of business, both for the time past and for the future. They have to basically calculate what Danielle's value to the group would have been and how her absence is now going to affect the earning potential for the group, and that's what they're going to go after for. And then obviously tampering as well. And I imagine for Danielle's mum, it's going to be similar charges to Hee-Jin as well. So even though they're suing both of them, the charges for both of them won't be the same, or should I say all 3 of them? The charges won't be entirely the same when everything is said and done. And I think that's everything I wanted to say about Danielle as of right now. Let's talk about Minji, and then we'll talk about like what I think is going to happen, because this is getting a bit longer than I want it to be. Okay, so Minji. I think Minji is, right now, they said they're in discussion, which means no decision has been made. I think Minji is leaning towards following Danielle's footsteps. And the reason I say this is because if she was close to agreeing to come back, they would have waited. They would have waited to say, like, we have all 4 members and only Danielle is a problem, and this is how we're moving forward. If they feel there's a chance of her following Danielle's footsteps, it makes sense for them to do what they're doing now. Because I think, as we've been saying as well, if we think back to the main lawsuit, we've been saying that once these girls are hit with a real number, that will be their wake-up call, that they need to come back to the company. And what happened? The minute they lost, Hanni and Hee-Jin and one of their dads went straight to the company and was like, okay, look, can we figure something out? Can we talk about this? Because that's when they started to see real consequences, right? And I feel like at this point, Danielle has said, fuck the consequences. I'm gonna fuck around and find out. Like, I trust this Chinese backer, I trust this company. I'm already making bag because she's already made money by herself. I'm sure the 1 billion she's earned is already enough to cover that. Not that she's probably still got it all, because I'm sure she spent it by now, but you know what I mean? Like, especially because it was a year ago, but she's been getting paid since that, right? I'm sure she feels like she's got proof of concept that I can earn money enough to pay whatever they charge me. It's not going to be the be all end all. Because like, even that 1 billion she made last year is out of the 43 billion that they're charging her. That's already like a sizable amount. Like, that's 2%, which I know in the grand scheme of thing, when we think of that, what those numbers actually mean is not a lot. But if you think of it from her perspective, her earning potential, now that she's in essence free to do what she wants, is a lot higher, especially if she goes outside of Korea and she markets herself as someone with a following who can appeal to young people all around the world, to brands who don't care about what's going on in Korea. She has, like, as much as I hate to say it, she does have the opportunity to somewhat be an influencer overseas. And if, I don't know anything about Danielle's individual musical talents, but if she's on the same level as her sister, or if she can attach herself to her sister, or whatever it may be, there is potential for her to go overseas and make money, or who knows. So I think them suing Danielle is a signal to Minji to say, look, we're not joking. We will sue you if you do what she's doing, because we're suing her. And I think that gives Minji the opportunity to weigh up, am I as confident that I can go and do what Danielle's doing? Because Danielle can go have her whole life in Australia and live her life without much issue. Minji will not only have the financial burden, but she will know her opportunities in Korea for the rest of her life are extremely limited. And I think this is a good point to now segue into what happens if she comes back. So I think if she's got any brain cells left rattling up on there, especially if she's listened to her parents, who I think will also be like, okay, this is a lot of money, like, let's not play these stupid games anymore, she will come back. The thing is, she's not coming back because she thinks what she did was wrong. She's not coming back because she's remorseful, and she's not coming back because she's apologetic. She's coming back because it's the safe choice. And I think this is a big problem, because now we've got this issue where, for the 4 members, working on the assumption that Minji does come back, for the 4 members who've come back, you've got Hee-Jin and Hee-Jin, who, for all intents and purposes, are working as a unit. A lot of you guys have said that one of them is like the most popular member anyway. So she's basically got the most to lose and the most to gain from most to lose from leaving and most to gain from staying in ADOR. And they kind of have the good graces of being the youngest. A lot of people have already been like, oh, I could live with NewJeans coming back, as long as the others don't come back, right? So they're already in a seriously advantage place compared to the other members. Hanni, based on people's reactions online, it's very split between 3G should never come back and I will never forgive them, or, oh, Hanni was brainwashed and manipulated by Danielle's mom. Danielle was the real bully. I don't fuck with Minji either. But if she's sorry enough for ADOR to accept her, I'm ready for her to redeem herself. And there's not very many people in the middle from what I've seen. So Hanni, in essence, has potential to make a comeback, but there will always be animosity between her and the 2 Magnes, because in essence, the Magnes abandoned the other 3, right? Like, they saved themselves first, and now Hanni has saved herself. And similarly, between Hanni and Minji, they had the bond of being the ones who were betrayed by the youngest. And now Hanni has betrayed Minji by deciding to come back by herself. And now Minji is not coming back because she thinks that, you could argue either way, that Hanni is only coming back to save herself, or she actually feels bad. We can't tell from the information that we have. But I feel like I will find it very hard to believe that Minji is coming back because she feels bad about anything. And that is going to create a vibe as well, because she's the oldest, if I remember correctly. Either she or Danielle is the oldest. So for her to come in and be like, you fucking traitors, and then be the oldest, and then them have to work together as a team, this is going to be AOA all over again. Like, I don't see how this team is going to function unless they get very good at acting like their friends. I mean, as I said, they may never have been that close in the first place, which is maybe what led us to this point. But I feel like, the chemistry is going to be poor, to say the least. And I'm getting a bit off my timeline that I wrote for myself. But I do think as well, also, there's still the fact that a lot of people don't like Hanni and Minji. For me personally, honestly, if I had to pick one of them that I didn't like, it's Minji. It's not even about ADORgate, so to speak. It's about that one comment she made at the press conference. Because for me, that is a character flaw. That is not a matter of, I made a mistake, I did something wrong, I made a bad decision. That is, I am not a nice person. I am not a respectful person. I don't fuck with people who don't respect other people. I don't like people who don't have manners. Maybe that's the British in me. I really personally do not fuck with people who don't have respect, like on a base level, who are not considerate, who are not kind. Minji has always given me a mean girl vibe, and I just don't fuck with her. So personally, I'm kind of hoping she leaves, I'm not gonna lie. I can see 3H being redeemable. I will say the public sentiment is all over the place. As I said with Hanni, it's a bit 50-50. With Danielle, I've seen only 2 responses. It's, you said you were going to take her back. How are you now kicking her out? Like, talking to ADOR. And NewJeans is 5. Like, why are you trying to separate them? Or, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Serves her right. This is what she's supposed to get. And personally, I'm in the second camp. And then with Minji, Actually, I haven't seen that many people talk about Minji. Like, beyond what I've said about people thinking, like, oh, she's leaning towards Danielle's side. At least she has been until now, should we say. The general sentiment I've seen is that people just don't want 3Ds to come back, which, understandable. I think what ADOR is doing makes sense. Especially, so going back to their statement at the end, where they're saying that we see that things have been distorted and biased. Both the company and artists agree that to restore love of the fans and public, it would take time to fully resolve the misunderstanding based on accurate facts. Furthermore, we've agreed to have a future opportunity to address the various controversies that arose during the dispute, and we're currently discussing the timing and method. I think this is so necessary. I've said it from the beginning. Nothing can begin anew until what has happened and what has transpired is resolved. They have to apologize publicly, they have to apologize privately, and they have to show a changed attitude. And I think that last part is where Minji is really going to struggle. Either they're going to have to pull her to the background when she does not speak publicly, or they are going to have to media train the fuck out of this girl, or she has to have a genuine change of heart. Because I'm sorry to say, what they have done now will follow them for the rest of the time. That's the way the world works, unfortunately. That's the way the media works. And like, even now as well, people were still quoting Minji. Do you understand now? Do you understand what's going on? Do you understand what's at risk? Like, even with the Danielle situation, people are still using that meme, and I will not be surprised if 10 years from now people are still using that. I will still be using that meme because I think it's funny as fuck. But anyway, but like, genuinely, I'm like, the amount of image making you're gonna have to do to win people's good graces back is not gonna be easy. I could see it being a case of, you know what I could see with what people were saying about Hanni? Sorry, I'm just thinking it out loud now. I don't think they're gonna make a comeback before end of summer next year. It's like, that's how much time is necessary, because they need to resolve the Danielle issue. They need to like actually apologize to all the other members, like the Seraphim and Islet members, to the staff, to the fans, all that kind of stuff. They need to show they're working and all this kind of stuff. Sorry, I'm repeating myself. But like, they have to do all that, and then they have to rebrand. They cannot use the name NewJeans anymore. I think that is a very bad decision if I was them. I think with 50/50's case, there was no hatred. That's the thing. Everyone's like, oh, this is stupid. Like, why would you do that? But there's no animosity towards the group and the members, even the members who left. Nobody really thinks of them as bad people. But right now, many people think of NewJeans as bad people. So they need to come back with a completely different style. We've also said if they continue to use anything that was originally tied to Hee-Jin's shadow will taint and haunt everything they do moving forward. So it's in ADOR's best interest also to move everything. And I can also say as well, I was quite surprised to see this. The stocks have gone up. And I actually thought people, like investors and like industry insiders and all these people, would be upset at the fact that NewJeans was not going to be a full group anymore, because everybody was really looking forward to ADOR reclaiming that old IP. But I think they've actually realized that it is in their best interest not to do that. It's in their best interest to retain the idols, retain the earning potential, but rebrand them as something else. So I feel like that's absolutely necessary. For Danielle though, obviously she's gonna lose. Like, have they won anything so far? Is Hee-Jin gonna win anything so far? I think, as I said, this might just be the first case of various cases she might have levied against her, or she might have various charges levied against her in this one case. I haven't read the details yet. But I think, man, what a way to ruin your life. Like, genuinely, you know what it is for me as well? I think having worked, so I only worked with very small idols, and unfortunately the idols who I've worked with like one-to-one on a personal level have all disbanded. But seeing what they go through and knowing how the industry works and knowing how many people, like how many wannabes never make it into a company, how many trainees never make it to debut, how many people debut from small Nuku companies and never get to a point where their name is widely recognized, even if they're not popular per se. There are groups, I would say like ACE is a good example, where a lot of people have heard of them even if they don't know them and they don't follow them, you know, like that kind of thing. To not get to that level and to see someone like Danielle or NewJeans as a whole, who, credit where credit's due, overcame some of those barriers by themselves. Getting into the company, passing the auditions, they did that by themselves. But we cannot deny the privilege that comes from debuting from a Big Four company. Or even, I would say beyond Big Four, even like Cube, Jellyfish, like FNC. There's a few companies where you know that even if you're not the top of the industry, you're going to have a pretty safe career. And to make it that far, to be at the top, like NewJeans, I don't think they were quite there yet. They were definitely well loved by the public, but I don't think they'd quite reached that point of being the #1 girl group. But they were well on their way, you know, to